Hey y'all, Noah from Create and Go here. Welcome back to the channel. I'm super excited about today's video because we're going to be talking about 5 niches that you should avoid when starting your new blogging business. Especially when you're first starting your blogging journey, it can be really confusing about what makes a good niche or a bad niche. So I hope that this video kind of clarifies some of the ones that you should be sure to avoid as you're starting your blogging journey. So without further ado, let's get right into them. The first niche you're going to want to avoid when you're starting your blog is any niche that's too broad. I'm sure you've all heard the saying, jack of all trades, master of none. And this really actually applies to blogging pretty well too. When you start your blog, if you're talking about 4 different topics throughout your website and maybe more, then Google is never really going to see you as an expert. You're going to be sort of that jack of all trades. And when you're doing that, you might get a little bit of traffic, not enough to make a ton of money or anything like that, but it's going to be hard to break through that roof of traffic because Google doesn't really know what the central topic of your blog is. So to avoid this, you want to narrow down your niche. You want to become an expert or a master of one topic and sort of try and scoop in all the traffic for just that niche. A great example of this is, say you wanted to start a food blog. Well, one of my coworkers at Create and Go, Kathy, she has a food blog, but it's primarily focused on keto. So she has a lot of success, and a lot of people find her blog when they're looking for keto recipes. If she blogged about foods that weren't keto, that paleo foods, etc., just whatever diet under the sun, odds are she probably wouldn't get as much traffic as she gets now. And this is because she's positioned herself as an expert in the keto space. And so people come to her when they're curious about, a new keto recipe or things like that. Shout out to Kathy's blog, Healthy Ambitions. She's killing it. Super proud of her. Y'all make sure to check it out if you're interested in anything keto. Which brings us to the second type of niche you want to avoid. And that is any niche that is dedicated to one singular brand. This may not sound like that big of a deal, but it actually can turn out really badly. The number one reason is that it's going to be really hard to be more of an expert in a brand than a brand. Does that make sense? So for example, you're never going to be more of an expert in Nike running shoes than Nike. So it's going to be extremely difficult for you to outrank Nike in regards to that key search term. Not to say that it's impossible. If you were a massive independent running shoe brand like Runner's World or something like that reviewed shoes, you could rank for that term, but it would be extremely difficult. And it's going to take a long time to become enough of an expert in that field to be able to rank for terms in regards to, the brand Nike. It's also never a good idea to put all of your eggs in one brand basket. The reason being, anything can happen. If Nike were to shut down because of some insane thing that, I don't know, maybe some huge marketing thing that happened that Nike suddenly goes out of business or something like that, you'd be really screwed if your blog was primarily focused on Nike products. And not only that, Nike can take legal action against you if they feel like it's any sort of copyright infringement or something along those lines. So it's definitely going to be best to make sure not to box yourself into a single brand when you're starting your blog. Niche number 3 that you're going to want to avoid is any niche that isn't ad friendly. Now, I don't want you to get too scared of this because this isn't necessarily to say that you can't start a blog in something like dating for adults or something like that, but it's more targeted towards things that advertisers wouldn't necessarily want to work with. So something like violent sports or alcohol consumption or tobacco products, things like that. For example, I love a good glass of whiskey, but I would probably never start a blog in the whiskey niche because there isn't a lot of opportunity to make money there. Odds are advertisers aren't going to want to put ads on my site. I'm going to limit my traffic quite a bit because no one who's under the age of 21 can enter my site, and you can't actually sell any alcohol products if you don't have a liquor license. So this isn't going to be a niche that would really be ideal for starting a blogging business. So keep in mind whether the topic that you want to blog about is family friendly. And if it's not, maybe consider twisting it in a way or talking about a specific piece of it that may be family friendly, thus being more ad friendly and a higher possibility of earning you a good income. The fourth type of niche you're going to want to avoid is any niche that's crazy overpriced products like sailboats or yachts. Odds are you're probably not going to have a very successful blog if you're trying to sell a yacht or a private jet or review those things, because people don't necessarily go to blogs to look for, what to buy in regards to those things. They probably have the money to get it exactly the way they want. But on the other side of the coin, you want to avoid starting niche sites in topics for products that may be super low priced. Things like a bouncy ball. A bouncy ball maybe costs like 50 cents, $1, maybe a couple dollars if you get a really cool one. But still, you're probably going to make a very low amount of money recommending bouncy balls for people to buy. It's just not a good affiliate product. There's also not really any product, like a digital product, that you could sell on your website related to that product. So kind of keep that in mind whenever you're thinking about starting your blogging business. If the product is way too expensive or way too cheap, then it might not work out. You kind of want to find that more middle ground. I'd say things like, products that maybe cost somewhere between $50 and $1,000 is a much better area to consider whenever you're starting your own niche site. And just a quick side note, if you guys have stuck around this long, I really appreciate it. And if you're enjoying it so far, if you wouldn't mind leaving a like down below or just commenting on the video to let me know, I would really appreciate it. The fifth and final type of niche that you're going to want to be sure to avoid is any niche in the health category. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible to write a blog about like wellness or things like that, but ever since Google's inception of YMYL or Your Money, Your Life niches, I would say creating a blog in that area has become much more difficult. Now, this isn't exactly a bad thing, because if I thought I was having a heart attack and I Googled, am I having a heart attack? I would want to see the symptoms of a heart attack listed out by a doctor, not by Joe Schmo, guy who took a health class once. So while this can be a good thing, it has its negatives too, because this can mean that starting a blog about holistic medicine or alternative medicine could be really difficult on Google. You're going to have a rough go at it if you're trying to outrank, medicine for diabetes when you're talking about alternative medicines, because Google wants to make sure that people have all the information they need about licensed and, federally approved medications. They don't want to encourage people to try things that haven't been proven as safe. Again, this definitely isn't to say that it's impossible to rank for a site that's related to health, but I would definitely say that you're setting yourself up for a lot more difficult path than if you were to choose another niche. You may see some people that have a lot of success with it, but odds are they probably started their blog years before YMYL became such a thing. With that being said, I don't want to discourage any of you guys from starting a blog in any category that you want to, but I want you to keep in mind that at Create and Go, we encourage our students to treat blogging like a business. And in any business, you want to make the decisions that set you up for the best chance of success. So that's why I highly suggest that you avoid any of these blogging niches if you're just getting started with your blog. On a final note though, I do want to say that just because these niches might not work really well for blogging doesn't mean that you can't create somewhere else. You may have a much better chance of success on a platform like TikTok or YouTube or something like that in regards to one of these niches versus starting a blog and ranking on Google for things that are related to these terms. So with all that being said, this pretty much wraps up today's video, and I really hope that this gave all you new and aspiring bloggers out there a better idea of what type of niches you should be avoiding going into the future. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you guys on the next video.